Before I begin, I would just like to clear out one thing, and that is that I've been doing digital photography since the late 90s. I know my way around camera and lens. I've participated in many contests, got a couple of dozen wins on the legendary digital photo contest website and so on. In other words, this is not some newbie mistake happening and me wondering about some obvious user errors. Furthermore, I have spent almost a week doing all kinds of tests to be sure the information I post here is correct. I bought Sigma 18-35 from Allen Electronics because they provide a full 1-year manufacturer warranty, which is kinda rare these days on eBay. Therefore, you have plenty of time to test your lens. I bought Canon 80D the same week it came out, and since it was a brand new camera, I assumed the focusing problems that I'm having with Sigma is probably due to camera having an early firmware and that eventually Canon will have this fixed in the future. However, a few weeks ago I've obtained a Canon 7D and I immediately started testing the lens only to learn it has exactly the same problem as I have on the 80D, which pretty much narrows it down to only one suspect. I should also point out that I bought Sigma dock, thinking I will fix these issues. I have spent 3 days doing totally independent calibrations and came out with quite different numbers in the correction table, so this made me pause for a second and review the whole thing from the start. In fact, I found it almost by mistake on the third day. Here's the shot. I didn't change any of the settings when I took this shot from a tripod. A few seconds later I took another one and another 50 more shots. Essentially what happens is that Sigma will once focus on one point, other time it will focus on some other. I call it a drunk lens motor phenomena, as if the motor is drunk and each time it takes a different step which results in different focus. In other words, all the calibration that I've done was futile. And this is the key point to all the other Sigma dock user owners who are having issues with this lens. You simply cannot calibrate a system that periodically decides it will focus on one distance and then a few moments later it will focus on a totally different one. It is impossible to calibrate that kind of a system. And by the way, I shot this with 1-point autofocus. There is no zone autofocus here, there is no servo here, okay? 1-point autofocus set precisely at the center. And I did this for all the tests, both inside and outside. Another point that should be mentioned here is something that relates to user experience and quality requirements. For example, someone who is occasional photographer most likely won't notice this problem at all and will call this lens fantastic because he takes 50 photos at a birthday party and then puts the camera away for nearly a whole year. Of course, his opinion is valid, but is definitely less valid than someone who actually spends several hours a day with this device. Therefore, when reading some of the comments placed below various Sigma review videos, please take them with a grain of salt, okay? Let's take a look at some more of the photos. As I've said, lens will sometimes focus perfectly, sometimes it will fail, and have found a rate of around 50%, which is unacceptable. Please don't get me wrong, Sigma is producing excellent pictures. For example, I shot this one with focus set to infinity. They are crystal clear side to side. The problem comes in the most difficult area to focus manually for a human, that is in 1 to 10 meter distance. This is where we need autofocus so desperately, and this is where it fails. Here are some examples. Total miss, another one, total miss, and another one. Here's one that on the other hand came out perfectly. I aimed autofocus directly at the head, then recomposed the shot. Let's get back to the scale shot. Take a good look at the scale indicating the autofocused area. This photo was took with camera on a tripod and with remote control. As you can see, it focused on one point. I took another shot, but no lens decided to focus on a totally different area. Before, after, get it? For all the shots I use single point, one shot autofocus, no servo, no live view, no nothing. Camera is at factory default. I have disabled all of the lens correction stuff, including perpetual illumination, chromatic and distortion correction, and so on. These two shots should be exactly the same, but they aren't. Focus is either right or wrong around 50% of the time. From this we can gather that this lens is having an issue. I need to send shout out to Jamie Crockstall, who also has Sigma 18-35 with 80D, and who verified that he experienced no such issues at all. My conclusion on all this is that perhaps there was a bad batch in the Sigma factory. And let's face it, since majority of users are amateurs, they won't notice it at all, or will think it was their fault, or they just don't care. Anyway, thanks for watching, and for all of you Canon owners with the same issue, don't forget to rate this video. The better it rates, the higher it appears in search results, which means the greater chance someone from Sigma notices it and perhaps decides to do something about this issue. Bye!